Hi, I'm Maureen Cahill from Tidewater Community College. I'm a reading and writing teacher, instructor here at the college, and I have been doing the integrated classes for 11 years. This is a DevEd talk for the Virginia Community College system. Today's DevEd talk will cover annotation to summary, a technique I use with my developmental reading and writing students at Tidewater Community College. The first step I have my students do is preview the reading. By previewing, I mean to read the title and the headings. In this reading selection, there is a title called Family Violence, Why We Hurt the Ones We Love, and I have them highlight that. We read each of the headings. In this case, there are 7 headings. I'm not going to have us do that today, but in class, I would actually walk them through that. The second step is a Z-scan. A Z-scan is a reading technique in which we use rapid reading in order to pick up key words and key phrases. For this reading selection, I would have the students highlight and read along. When the lake water swirled over the car holding Susan Smith's 2 little boys, the ripple was felt. And then we Z. Union, Smith cases, jolted, shootings, stabbings, O.J. Simpson, Ron Goldman. And then we come back across with such messy business as spousal abuse and murder for the final piece of that first paragraph. A Z-scan would be run either paragraph by paragraph or section by section, depending on the needs of the student and the demands of the text. You can typically find the topic once you do a Z-scan. The topic of this piece, we can see, has something to do with family and violence. The goal for the student in using annotations is twofold. They will focus as they read. Many of our students say they find reading boring, or they can't focus that long. They can't find the important information. Doing all of these steps will help them identify exactly what they need for tests later on and to write summaries and to write better papers. So our goal is to help them focus and pay attention as they read. The second thing is that they can organize the information in a way that makes sense. So to retain the information, our students need to focus and organize the information in a way that's important to them. Many of our students do not want to write on their textbooks. I don't blame them. The books are about $100 and who wants to deface a book? So have them buy sticky notes. Please remind them to buy the small sticky notes. The large sticky notes, they will write too much information, and it's the same effect as overmarking their textbook. They'll have too much information on the page, they'll think everything's important, and that's not what we want. We want them to be selective, again, and prioritize the information. The only material students need to annotate is their textbook or whatever they're reading, some sticky notes, and a pen. Their goal is to write brief notes in the margins. They should focus on paraphrasing the information. Paraphrasing means putting it in their own words. They can show true comprehension that way, and it works better for study if it's in their own words instead of in the words of the author. Annotation should be done section by section, focusing on main idea and major supporting details. It should not include critiques, or it should not include the student's opinion of the information, nor should it add information that they picked up from elsewhere. It should focus exactly on what that author is saying about that topic. When I do this for the first couple of times, I scaffold with the students, so I start as a whole class activity, and I walk them through it slowly, section by section, and once we get it done, the next day or the following week, we do the summary. I do not do this activity in one shot with my students. I do it over a 1 to 2 week period, depending on the needs of the class. To make good annotations, students need to abbreviate. They need to write acronyms. They need to focus on key words. So they're not writing complete sentences in the margins. They're writing only a couple of words, just as I did with family violence in the margin. And they should focus on more than just the basic literal information, such as who, what, when, and where. We want our students to think more critically than that and go to the higher order thinking questions, such as what are the traits, what are the characteristics, what comparisons do you see, what contrasts do you see, what causes and what effects, because these are the types of questions they'll be asked in future college classes. The goal is not to focus on the fancy example that's provided, but to ask, what is this an example of? Students should be told to think first, write second, and in this way they'll prioritize the information a little better. Our goal is to have them focus on things like definitions, examples, experiments that really explain a process. They should look at comparisons again and contrasts, causes and effects. These are the kinds of things that would be multiple choice questions or essay and short answer questions later in their other classes. Once a student is finished annotating an entire piece, they can use it for study. It's much like flashcards that we used when we were kids, learning the multiplication tables. A completed copy would look like this. We would cover up the text and just read from the margins. To study from this material, I would just go down the side of the page. I would not read the text unless I absolutely had to. The goal is to use these cues or prompts in the margins to help recall the information. Students who can do that really do demonstrate metacognitively that they understand the material so that they are better prepared for the tests and exams that they will see. Most tests in college require short answer and essay type responses. Annotations are a good way to move that material into a written format they could use to practice for exams. So a paraphrase and a summary can be made from these annotations. A summary is a brief restatement of the author's point of view. It maintains the author's standpoint and the author's organization. It begins with the title and the authors and the main idea. Often students will ask me, how long does my summary need to be? Well, that depends on the reading selection and what you're up to. So on an exam where you have 4 questions, your summary should be fairly lengthy. Whereas in a class like this where we're all reading the same thing, the summary should be focused a little bit more tightly. They should have one main idea, and typically I tell them 1 sentence per heading. So in this reading selection, we'd have 8 sentences, a main idea sentence and 7 body sentences because it has 7 headings. Summaries are written in third person. Students need to use complete sentences, so their annotation list needs to be changed into full sentences. We work together to do that, and it typically takes us a full class period to move our annotations into a summary. They have to eliminate any repetitions because authors tend to repeat the main ideas because they want to make sure students understand. So in a summary, though, they only need to state the key points 1 time. So we write a list of the annotations. Once that's done, we go back through and cross out any repetitions, and then we try to add transitions so that our papers will flow. We don't want a list that reads, family violence is bad, elder abuse is one type of family violence, child abuse is another form of family violence. By the end, the teacher is going to be ill. So you don't want to do that on an exam, and we want to make sure our students know that. We want to do something that will help our students create better papers as they move into their future classes. The process, once again, is preview, Z-scan, annotate, list the annotations, eliminate repetitions, create sentences, join them with transitions, create a paragraph summary. And again, it does take a couple of days to do that. I'm Maureen Cahill. I'm available for questions at mcahill@tcc.edu. This material will all be available at the Virginia Community College Systems Professional Development page